We have Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta in studio, and we go straight to that. Of course, we were chatting just now, so my attention was a bit, yes, busy day for you.
Busy.
Let's talk first and foremost about the hate speech issue. You know, the Internal Security Ministry is saying this is too much, and we may actually be calling people to write statements on this issue. You've been very vocal today about it. Are you not concerned that it could incite violence?
No. I've been very vocal today. I've been vocal yesterday. I've been vocal the weekend before that. But my vocalness, to call it that, is not against any community. It's against a particular individual who I think Kenyans need to know. Since you people in the media won't expose him, then we have to go and talk about him where we need to talk about him.
You are going to a court process,
yeah.
and the thought is that you will be presenting your evidence there. Why the need to do the public rallies? Because is this, do you feel, is it important, what's important about the public rallies?
No, what's important is the summons were issued on the 15th, and prior to that there's been a lot of hearsay, and I've been normally very quiet, focusing on the job that I have been given by His Excellency the President, and just keeping my mind and my attention on that. But given the various viewpoints by your pundits here in the office, by the papers, by the so-called NGOs and everybody else, I really felt, well, I mean, I can't just continue keeping quiet. I also want to hear, what do Kenyans really think? What do Kenyans really think? Do they actually agree with the kind of statements that we've been watching on TV and elsewhere? And I decided to go out. And the only thing I will say is that I'm grateful to God that every single place I've been, the support has been overwhelming, contrary to the kind of image that has been portrayed out there. And as we go with a lot of confidence, at least I go with a lot of confidence, that the majority in this republic do believe that we are innocent. And we believe that innocence will be proved, as we said when we agreed on the 15th, that we will appear, will be proved before that court. That confidence, that support, that goodwill that was denied us through regular media, we now have. And I'm going strong.
You feel hard done by the media. But
yeah.
Let me, for the sake of the country, you're saying you're not intending in any way to incite.
No.
What would you tell the country right now? You have the chance to talk to people, and tensions, we're being told
No, Julia,
yes.
Let me correct you. I've already had my chance to talk to people.
You still
I'm satisfied with that.
You still do. What would you tell people if tensions are raising in terms of any potential violence? What message
Precisely
would you
what
have?
I've been saying when I've been out there, that as far as I'm concerned, we are innocent. As far as I'm concerned, I am innocent. As far as I'm concerned, we are going because we are law-abiding citizens. That was the first statement I said when Ocampo issued his summons. And the only doubt I had was based on the way the media wanted to portray the situation. And I've had a good opportunity, and I thank God for that opportunity, to be able to go out into the countryside, to talk to the people, and to see that that impression that's been created isn't the impression that exists on the ground. And I go satisfied, and as I've been telling them, let's be peaceful.
Good, great.
Let's let the process take its effect. And because we believe and we trust in God, the truth will come out.
Let's talk about the game plan. When do you depart?
Well, I'm not sure, either Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll see.
How many lawyers on your team?
I don't think that's something I want to discuss.
Okay, so you really want to keep things a little bit quiet. What are your expectations? Can you tell us that?
My expectations are for the truth to eventually come out. My expectations is for Kenyans to know what actually happened. My expectations is that justice will be done.
Let's talk about 205. The referendum was over. I was in studio with you in another interview.
Absolutely.
And at that point, you were extremely frustrated with the politics in the country. And in fact, you said you were taking some time out to think about things very seriously and come back and see if you were continuing in politics.
True.
A very different Uhuru today. A lot of vigor, a lot of energy, a lot of focus. I'm going to ask you several questions in one and then let you answer them together.
That's right.
What has sparked this renewed vigor in you, number one? Number two, you have been now crowned king of the Kikuyu community. how does that now relate with the national interests of the nation? Does it not affect people's perspectives where they say this guy actually represents a tribal interest? Please give me your thoughts on those.
First and foremost, on that particular issue, which I think is in the minds of most people, I don't think I represent any tribal interest. I think the most important thing that I've been saying is that if we look at the interests of that particular community, I think we need to be able to sit down and say, what are the interests of this region? We now have, for example, several county governments. We need to be able to sit down and discuss what are the interests of these counties. Unfortunately, what has happened in the past, we have taken individual interests as opposed to global interests or community interests. That I want to be an MP, I want to be a president, I want to be a senator, I want to be a governor, at the expense of the interests of the people that you're supposed to serve. And all I've been saying is that we need now to sit down and focus ourselves and say, what are the global interests? What are the interests of the community? Because let us not kid ourselves. We do exist within certain families, communities, and so on and so forth, right? And the ultimate agenda is that if you don't know yourself, you will not know what it is that you want from your country. And I believe, first and foremost, that is where this entire scenario of people talking against each other, that becomes the captive mind. It's not the issues that take center stage anymore. It's what I, Uhuru, want. It's what you, Julie, want. It's what so-and-so wants. That has to cease. Secondly, and this I say without shame and fear, when we look at the election of 2007, one of the principal reasons why people said Kibaki had lost was because his support base, right, not just in Central Province, Eastern, throughout the country, did not manage to galvanize themselves in one political party. So, very many individuals voted for Kibaki, and I believe he won. But because so many other people who voted for Kibaki, but they were in 10, 20, 30 different parties, it created a facade that the party that he belonged to had lost the election because it only had 40 seats. But then when you look eventually at the totality of the vote that he actually got, if you took all the other small parties, so-called, that were supporting him, yes, he actually had won the election.
I hear you, but there have been a lot of people who've done a study of the elections and said we simply cannot say for sure who won this election. But
a lot of people may have done a lot of study. I personally believe, having participated in that election, having campaigned for him, and as you've correctly said, in 2005, having been not necessarily clear myself where I was going, correct?
Yes.
A campaign for him. I strongly believe that in the election of 2007, President Mwai Kibaki won the election. And I believe that one of the facets that resulted in people saying he hadn't won that election was the fact that somebody could stand up and say ODM has 100 and X seats.
Okay.
PNU has 42 seats. Can you put the two together?
Okay.
Simple as that, Julie.
Okay, Uhuru, as we finalize, because they've been telling me for ages we must finalize, you've had your say, and I want to ask you, you've just talked about the fact that we're not talking about issues, but we look to our leaders to set the pace. And indeed, you as a leader have not been talking about issues over the past few days. At what point, I realize that you are in a situation right now. I realize that you are going to present evidence at the Hague.
Julie, I've been talking about issues from day one. I've been focusing on my job from day one. If you want to refer to the last few weeks, I have told you specifically what mission I was on. I'm very clear on that.
And this,
if it were issues, Julie, I think the work that some of us have been doing over the last 2, 3, 4 years, when we have been in position to do work, I think we have shown clearly the direction that we want to take this country in. And that is not without doubt.
Okay.
But what I am saying is that if people want to play politics and not focus on the issues, then we are equally ready to play the politics until we are ready to look at the global assembly.
Okay, we're going through a Hague process possibly for a few years. It looks like it might be drawn out.
We'll see.
What are your thoughts? Are we going to continue playing this politics for the next, would you spare it? Would you spare the nation?
Not only would I spare it,
Yes.
and that's why, for example, today was one of the greatest days for me. Because as much as we are in the Hague politics, we were actually today in Nakuru town. And the single message that we preached out there was, one, that in the Rift Valley, people who have always been antagonistic at election times, that they are now saying, and we are all saying, that we don't want to see antagonism every 5 years, that the people are willing, and they have took an oath themselves, that from here on hence, we don't want to see that happening again. Julie, even if the Hague process takes 100 years, that to me is in itself a major achievement. And I feel satisfied by it.
Okay, that's an excellent way to end the interview. That it should never happen again, no matter what the situation. Thank you so much for being with us.